What is up, everybody? I am back, and finally, there is a show that I actually wanted to talk about that not everyone and their mom is watching. Looking at you, Rings of Power and Penguin and Agatha all along. No shade to all those shows; those are really great. But as a small content creator, if everybody's watching all those stuff, they're not going to come watch yours truly. But today, we're going to talk about a show that not a lot of people are even having on their radar, but hopefully you are, because you're watching this video, and that is Grotesquerie. Grotesquerie was co-created by Ryan Murphy, who is best known for creating some of the most popular shows of our time, like American Horror Story, Nip Tuck, Scream Queens, and Glee. And Scream Queens doesn't get enough love because those first two seasons were top tier to me. And if you haven't, go check that out. Definitely check them out, after you watch this video. But go shout out to Scream Queens. Really good show. I mean, it has Keke Palmer and Emma Roberts getting chased by a killer in a Red Devil costume. I mean, what more do you want? Grotesquerie tells the story of Detective Lois, who must work with a young nun reporter, Sister Megan, to figure out the source of a series of religious murders that are affecting both their community and their personal lives. But before we get into the breakdown of Grotesquerie, the first two episodes, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video because, I'm going to be the only one that's going to be talking about this show. Probably not, but, I'm talking about it first as a recording of this video. Hopefully nobody else will upload it before me. But without further ado, let's get into the episode recap of episode 1 of Grotesquerie. The episode opens with Lois having a nightmare where a white curtain is starting to burn. She's awakened by her phone ringing as she gets a call about a gruesome family murder that has been committed. Lois arrives at the crime scene and everyone seems to be rattled by what they have seen. After getting briefed on the situation, Lois enters the house and sees blood and body parts of all the victims around the house. We see the dead bodies of the family sitting around the table with human remains shoved down their mouths. So if you didn't know already, you're going to get a lot of gore in this show. And if you came for that, then thumbs up for you because you're going to get a lot of it. I mean, the show's called Grotesquerie. Lois then hears the timer go off and sees that there is a pot on the stove still cooking. Lois looks inside the pot and is speechless for what she sees inside. The next day, Lois goes to visit her husband in the hospital who has been in a coma for 28 days. Lois talks to the head nurse there, Nurse Red, about her husband's situation and suggests that Marshall be taken to another facility. Lois says that she feels like her husband is not with us anymore, but Nurse Red pushes back and says that his spirit is still here. The two get into a back and forth, and eventually Lois tells Nurse Red to back off. We'll talk more about Nurse Red later on in the video, but wow. This lady, man, these first two episodes, she has the worst customer service ever. 0 stars for her. Back at the police station, Lois talks with her fellow colleagues about the murders and tells them that no DNA other than the victims has been discovered yet, and that for some reason these murders seem familiar to her. A deputy then tells Lois that there is a nun that wants to see her who is a reporter. Lois meets with the nun, who introduces herself as Sister Megan, a reporter at the Catholic Guardian. Sister Megan says that her reporting has increased the traffic on their website and that the murder victims were friends of her priest. Lois says that she would like to talk to the priest, and Megan agrees and asks more questions about the crime scene. Lois starts to tell Megan about the murder in great detail. Lois says that the cops were called when the neighbor heard loud Mozart music coming from the house. Sister Megan shuts her eyes and says the Requiem, the name of the Mozart song that was being played at the murder victim's house. Lois seems suspicious by this and puts her hand on her gun that is hidden away in her drawer. Lois asks Sister Megan if she just guessed that song or if she has something else to tell her. Megan says that she just guessed it and that it makes sense for Lois continues to share with Sister Megan that there was a strange black liquid at the scene that they have yet to identify. We then jump to another murder, and Lois sees 2 bodies that have been cut up and drained of blood that are hanging on the wall in some kind of message. Sister Megan shows up to the crime scene and Lois forcibly tells her to leave, but soon reconsiders and tells her that she can stay and take notes, but do not touch anything. After visiting her husband at the hospital, Lois arrives home and senses that she is not alone. Lois sees a figure in a black hat flee her house, and she chases after him into the backyard and fires off a few shots at the figure, but they get away. The next day at the police station, Lois talks with Sister Megan about the murders, and Megan starts to recant passages in the Bible that seem to be connected with the killings. Lois says that she really doesn't want to continue with this case, but she doesn't trust anyone else to do it. Lois tells Megan that they got the results back from the lab about the black liquid they found at both crime scenes and that it's sulfur dioxide. Sister Megan says that is brimstone, and she starts to recant some more Bible verses. She concludes that the killer and their killings are religious in nature. And that is the end of episode 1 of Grotesquerie. That was pretty weird, We're going to talk about it more in depth after we do the recap of episode 2, but let me know what your thoughts about the different characters and all that in the comments down below right now. But like I said, we will talk about everything in detail in terms of the characters, what I think about every episode, my theories on who the killer might be later on in the video. But if you can't wait, I do have timestamps in the description, so be sure to click that if you want to get to where you want to get to. But let's get to episode 2 of Grotesquerie. Episode 2 starts off with a flashback with Lois and her family, her husband Marshall, and her daughter Merritt, as Marshall is trying to tell his daughter that he thinks that she needs to go to rehab to help with her weight loss, and that he doesn't want to see his daughter waste her life away. Merritt says that she doesn't want to be sent to a fat camp, and that she is fine in her own body, and that her father is the one who's uncomfortable with it. Merritt leaves, and Marshall sarcastically thanks Lois for helping him. Lois says that maybe they all should go to therapy, Merritt for her weight loss, her for her drinking, and him for his sex addiction. Marshall says that he felt pushed away by Lois and that sometimes he still loves her. But Lois tells him that she wishes he was dead and that he needs to leave. We then cut to present time as Lois is outside of her husband's room at the hospital crying. Nurse Red tells her to stop crying and that she needs to be with her husband. Lois has then had enough with Nurse Red comments and gets ready to fight her. I mean, she kind of deserves it. This nurse has been kind of out of line. But security comes and stops Lois before she can attack Red, and Red goes to give Marshall a sponge bath, which to me looked a little bit more than just a sponge bath. But that's let me know what you think about that, because there's something going on there. Lois catches Red and confronts her, calling her a predator, and Nurse Red tells Lois that she can do it herself, and then leaves the room. Back at the police station, Lois tells the other police officers that they need to look for the DNA outside of the house. Lois goes to visit Sister Megan and tells her about her theory about the killer being connected to the university. Sister Maggie disagrees and shows Lois that she has been doing some investigation of her own and thinks that the killer thinks that he is God. We then cut to Sister Megan attending church, where we meet Father Charlie as he gives a sermon. The two later go for dinner to talk about the murders. Father Charlie says that he is impressed with Megan's work and that he is kind of a fan of serial killers. I know a lot of people that are into true crime stuff and, they like all that stuff. To me, guys are like, oh, what's your favorite serial killer? It's a little weird, but I think that's what the show's getting at here. Later, we see Father Charlie having a good time, and when he is done, he starts to whip himself to atone for his sins. So I guess that hamburger lunch that he had with Sister Megan really, was it for him. Really got him going. Later, Sister Megan calls Lois and tells her that she wants to publish the article suggesting that the murders were committed by Satanists. But Lois says that she doesn't think so and that she got a lead about the killer and is heading there right now. Lois and a SWAT team arrive at the suspect's house and find the man dead on his mother's stomach. Lois calls Sister Megan over for drinks and tells her what she found at the house. Lois tells Megan that it was all staged by the killer and that the man they found had been dead for weeks and that his mother was still alive. All she does is recite a passage from the Bible. Lois also says that the killer left a calling card and signed with his name, Grotesquerie. On the way home, Lois is confronted by the same homeless man that she almost hit with her car in the first episode and gives him some cash. At home, Lois gives her daughter Merritt the box she found at the crime scene and asks her if she can unlock it. Merritt tries, but she says that it doesn't seem to open. Lois falls asleep and then is woken up when she sees the same figure with the black hat that we saw in episode 1 walking around her home. Lois goes around the house looking for the figure but quickly gives up as she sits down next to Merritt in her bed. While getting ready for bed, Lois gets a call about another murder at a church, and when she arrives, everyone is in shock and disgust at what they have witnessed. Sister Megan arrives at the scene and sits with Lois as they both stare at Grotesquerie's latest murder. The people murdered are all positioned up at an altar to recreate the Last Supper, and at the center is the homeless man that we have seen before. The episode ends with Lois leaving the church, knowing that she has to figure out who Grotesquerie is. But that is it, guys. Those are the first 2 episode recaps of the first 2 episodes of Grotesquerie. What did you guys think about this show? For me, I kind of like the direction we're going here. It kind of feels like a mixture of like Seven and like Long Leg. But it kind of feels like that, with the murder scenes being the event pieces in each episode so far. If you're into that kind of stuff and you really want to see that shock value, then you're going to get that in these first 2 episodes. Hopefully the series can maintain that kind of quality and that expectation, because you gave me some really interesting set pieces with the murders that we got so far. You had the family around the table. That was crazy. And then you had the guys, the drug addicts stuck up on the wall. And then the ending of the last episode, episode 2, with the recreation of the Last Supper. Holy crap. This show, with the visuals and everything, the practical effects of the murders are pretty scary. I really enjoy it. It's kind of weird that I say enjoy it, but I do. I can marvel at the craftsmanship that they have done so far. I also do like that they are planting the seeds of a little bit of a look at religion, like modern religion, particularly through the lens of Sister Megan, how she's a nun, but she wasn't always a nun, as she says before. She has a cell phone, she listens to music, she cusses and everything, and you can kind of see that maybe she has some lust for Father Charlie over here, and it looks like it's vice versa as well. But speaking of Sister Megan, let's talk about her. I think that she is the standout character in this show so far. Every time she is on screen, she's very captivating and compelling, and you want to know more about her backstory. Honestly, I'm not trying to sound mean to, Nancy Nash, but I love her. But I feel like she is kind of sidelined sometimes when Sister Megan is on screen, because so far she's just a far more interesting character, to me at least, than what we have with Detective Lois here. But again, it's only 2 episodes in of the series so far. Maybe by the end of the series, I will totally love Lewis, and everything will be forgiven. It's a TV show. They do have time to develop these characters and make these characters a little bit more interesting. But as right now, I'm more interested in Sister Megan's storyline than I am with Detective Lois. And I said I was going to talk about the Nurse Red here because this lady is weird. I mean, we had those classic Ryan Murphy shots with her when they, zoomed into her mouth. Don't know what Ryan Murphy has a fascination with just close up on people's orifices. It's kind of weird, but she is just a weird person. I don't know how she's a nurse. I don't know how she hasn't had 100 complaints. She did talk about in the first episode how there was a complaint of somebody, impregnating a patient in a coma. So this hospital doesn't have a good reputation. You have the lead nurse being very, very unprofessional, in my opinion. And then you had those scandals in the past. So to me, I'm like, I know Detective Lois she probably makes a little bit of money, a little bit of cash, so she could probably move her husband to a different place. And even Nurse Red suggests that they move him to a different place. So I don't know what the situation is with that. We'll learn probably later on. But Nurse Red, gotta keep my eye on her. I don't think she's the killer. I think that would be a little bit too obvious as to how creepy she is. She is creepy though, so I'm interested to see what her character has to do with this whole thing overall. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about Nurse Red. Is she weird? Am I weird for thinking she's weird? Let me know in the comments down below. So let's talk about Father Charlie next. I think he's going to be a very pivotal and interesting character as we go forward. We got a little bit of interactions with him in episode 2, and we see that, you know, dude likes to have fun. But with him having that fun, he has to punish himself because of his religion or his beliefs. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And if you watch the trailer for Grotesquerie, the stuff that's going to be coming up, he does, you know, he pleasures himself a lot. Let's just say that. And that pleasure looks like it's going to be with other people. So we'll see how that goes. But looks like he's going to be hurting his back a lot more and as the series goes on. Now, like I've been saying, we were only 2 episodes into this show. But as of right now, I think the Merritt character, Lois's daughter, that whole character and that whole storyline about her, you know, the overeating and the weight loss and the concern about that to me, I don't understand why it's in the show. I don't understand what the purpose of the Merritt character is so far. Maybe she will be the one to figure out the box puzzle, open the box puzzle. Maybe that's the only reason why she's there in the series so far. But I don't know. I feel like her character is kind of out of place, and the whole storyline with her is kind of out of place. They just need to explain it a little bit more so I can kind of understand what her purpose in the series so far. But let me know what you think about the Merritt character and the whole situation with her in the comments down below, because I'm kind of a loss of why we're even showing this character. But now we're going to get to my theory section of the video, where I talk about some things that I think might happen in the future of the series, or just some random thoughts that I had in my head. And as always, let me know what your theories are in the comments down below, because I can't solve this by myself. I need your help. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the first opening scene of the series in episode 1 with the dream sequence that we got with the burning curtains. Now, Detective Lois says something later on in the series where she says, this whole case seems familiar. And I immediately thought maybe she's talking about the dream she had in the beginning of the series. Something to do with something burning. And you hear people in the background like screaming or crying out. Hopefully, as the series goes by, we are going to get more dream sequences or flashbacks to connect the pieces together. But I do think that her familiarity, or her thinking that this is familiar, has to do something with that dream sequence. Now, another theory that most people are probably having with this is what was in the pot. There was that whole scene where, you know, the timer goes off and then Detective Lewis opens the pot and she sees what's inside, and she's shocked and disgusted and afraid. You know, her expression says it all. And there was that whole scene where she's talking to Sister Megan about, you know, that scene, and when she saw what was in the pot, and Sister Megan asked what was in the pot, and Lois says, think of the worst, like, imaginable thing that you think of in a pot. And I think, personally, it was the kid. There's a baby in the family that was killed in that house, and when they went in there, they didn't see a dead baby at all, but think the baby was in a pot. And that's a crazy image to think of, a baby being boiled alive. The show is going to be crazy. I don't know how I'm going to be surviving after this. But what do you think was in the pot? Do you think it was, unfortunately, the baby in the pot? Or do you think that there was just a really bad gumbo? You know, didn't have any salt. That's why everybody was looking at it all weird. They're like, damn, you didn't season this at all. And the last thing I want to talk about or theorize is the bruise on Sister Megan's face when she goes to talk to Lois at the restaurant and they're getting drinks and stuff. She says that there was nothing and she fell down, but obviously that's a lie. So what possibly could happen? I think she is in a weird kind of relationship with Father Charlie, and they do some weird stuff. You know, again, like I said, if you watch the trailer of this series, They get a little snippet, you know, I'll post it up on here. Hopefully YouTube won't take it down. But they post something that maybe them two are into some freaky religious stuff. That's all I'm going to be saying. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you guys think of Grotesquerie? What do you think about all the characters and everything? Like I said before, guys, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video because I'm going to be giving you Grotesquerie content this entire series. So if you like this stuff, like the video, subscribe. But as always, guys, if you want to check out some other TV series that I have done before, go check out the playlist over here or up there, wherever you see it on your screen. I talk about a whole bunch of different other TV shows that probably some people don't talk about. So if you want to go check that out over here. And as always, guys, keep watching.